On Election Day, did you know nearly 65,000 documents related to the Fast and Furious were turned over to Congress? Two of those guns in that scandal were found at the scene of a shootout that killed the border agent Brian Terry. But now these newly released documents contain emails from the Attorney General Eric Holder attacking his critics, including Issa. The House Oversight Committee chair is with me now, live out of Washington. How are you, sir, and good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
I think maybe he wanted you to see this, okay? I'll share this with viewers. Issa and his idiot cronies never gave a damn about this when all that was happening, was that thousands of Mexicans were being killed with guns from our country. All they want to do in reality is cripple ATF and suck up to the gun lobby. Politics at its worst, maybe the media will get it. What about that?
You know, I traveled to Mexico to meet with leaders there and to meet with the ATF agents in Mexico who were actually deceived and denied access to this activity. This was an undercover activity that specifically cut out our allies in Mexico from any kind of knowledge. So if there's culpability, I think it really belongs with the Attorney General. And these documents, if nothing else, show that while he was asserting there was some executive privilege, he withheld 8 times as many documents not related to executive privilege as he ever delivered. That's the kind of cover-up that this Attorney General was found for the first time ever in contempt for withholding.
2 specific questions. Why on Election Day were these handed over?
Least likely day to affect an election. There's no question at all.
Did you expect it on Tuesday?
We did. They kept delaying and delaying. They even failed to hit a federal judge's order more than a month ago, and then pled that they needed until November 3rd, which she gave them. You know, ultimately, this has been delayed by more than 2.5 years, but justice delayed is still justice that we have to seek. And when it comes to Brian Terry and his family, and so many people across the border that were affected by not just the activities, but the lies and cover-up by the Attorney General's staff, we need to continue exploring it. One thing the documents are beginning to show us is Attorney General Eric Holder was directly involved in emails. He went as far as to order, when he was firing the ATF acting director, order that his office door be shut so people wouldn't know he'd cleaned it out 2 days before they announced the firing.
So
this is an Attorney General that's...
If he was that involved, what does that tell you now?
Every single time he's been before Congress, he said, I only know what I read in the newspaper, I just found out about it when you did, kind of thing. But it looks very much like he's CC'd on everything. He's back and forth, intimately involved, including emails that come from the minority staff, from Elijah Cummings' staff, that make their way directly to the Attorney General. So this is an example where the Attorney General was at the heart of this. We're going to go through 64,000 plus documents. They were given to us in perhaps the hardest way to read individual files, each one having to be opened. But we have a staff that's going through them. We're going to get the American people the truth. And let's understand one thing from that earlier email. The ATF was working under a U.S. attorney that worked for the Attorney General. If there's culpability, it's Dennis Burke, it's the Attorney General. It's not the ATF per se. They may come up with schemes that are wrong, but we employ people who are Senate confirmed, who are supposed to be the check and balance. And in the case of Fast and Furious, Dennis Burke, a U.S. attorney appointed by the President, and the chain of command leading to Attorney General Holder should be held responsible.
One final question here. It seems everybody has an opinion about what these election results tell them. What did they tell you?
They tell me there's an opportunity with the American people's support to legislate. We have passed legislation out of the House, 180 or so of them, that were broadly bipartisan, that died in the Senate. For the first time, we'll get to do things like high-tech reform for guest workers, something that actually adds to our economy, pieces of immigration reform that could become law in addition to other valuable legislation. One that's my favorite, the federal IT reform, which had my entire committee's support and died in the Senate, would have prevented the kind of fiasco we saw with healthcare.gov.
Wow.
So real legislation, real fix for the federal bureaucracy, real savings for the American people.
Okay, Issa, thank you. We'll speak again. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Bill.